and you ain't really good at that. Quit going down to the church trying to sing. You can't sing.
And sometimes we keep that armor on, but we don't take care of that armor. We don't do the things that are necessary to polish it up.
And I've become kind of an expert on it. I've had my own conditions with my heart. I know a lot about the heart.
Now, just because they let you sing at the church, you're not finna, ain't nobody else finna go with this. Because, you know, come as you are, the Lord loveth a cheerful giver, all that. We don't apply scriptures out here. You come to the Apollo and you can't sing, we got something for your ass up there. Period. Listen to me. All of you have this gift. Identify it. It's the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. That's what you should be doing. You're wasting your time pursuing your passion. The Bible does not mention passion. It mentions your gift. What are you gifted at, and do that? Stop tripping. You can do that. If you fry chicken better than everybody you know, you ought to be somewhere frying chicken. People make millions of dollars frying chicken. Popeyes.
And what that means is that you got to get back. And then you got to get up. You got to recognize that everything doesn't always work the same way all the time. And this is why you got to understand in life, it's always going to change. And you got to be able to adapt to the changes that are happening day in and day out. So sometimes you get lonely. Sometimes you get frustrated. Sometimes you are afraid. But why haven't you suited up? Why haven't you put on that armor? Because without that armor, you can't fight.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, El Pollo Loco. All they doing is making chicken. They just found a way to do it. Somebody just started making chicken. You know the story of Marie Callender's? Do you know what this woman did, man? She worked for a diner, a greasy spoon diner that was going out of business. It was her only job. She was a single mother. It was her only job. She needed that job, but the diner was gonna close. So she went to the owner of the diner and said, let me bake one of my pies. People like my pies, and see if I can help you make a little money. He said, whatever, bring it in. She bought one pie in. They sold every slice. The next day, the people came in and asked for the pie. She had to go home and make another pie. The next day, so many people asked for the pie, she had to make 4 pies. Then people started saying, can I buy my own pie? She made so many pies at this store that she eventually saved her money and put a commercial oven in her house.
You can't move. You can't excel. You did not allow that special armor to do its job. You went out in the world naked. You went out in the world without a care in the world. You thought that you just knew you was gonna be okay. You can't just be okay. If you don't have that armor, you're not gonna get very far. You are not gonna walk through this world thinking that the world owes you something. The world doesn't owe you anything. You don't get nowhere in life without somebody standing with you, building you up and lifting you up and aiding you along the way. But at the end of the day, it still falls in your hands to make a difference, to do the job, to live your life.
I know a lot about the medications. I understand inflammation in the body. I've become sort of a quasi-expert on 2 things I knew nothing about. Many, many years ago, I knew nothing about communicating on camera or starting a podcast. I'll tell you a funny story. When my podcast started, I was encouraged to do it by Tony Robbins, and when my podcast started, he said, hey, you got to order. People say, I now, you're listening to the #1 business podcast in the world that didn't even exist 2 years ago, okay? I knew nothing about podcasting, nothing about how this worked. I did not even know what a podcast was. I want you to understand something. When I was first told to have a podcast, I did not know what one was. And so he said, you got to have one of these. I said, what are they? You know, where do you get the microphones? Where do you get the stuff you talk to? Before I had this stuff on camera. This is a true story.
And protect yourself from all of the things that may affect your life. There are people right now that have been told that they're worthless, that they won't amount to anything. And they have allowed their emotions and their feelings to get disrupted. And ladies and gentlemen, you allow these things to happen because you're not protecting yourself. So you got to suit up. You got to put on that armor. You got to be a little bit more faithful. You have to understand that there is a purpose behind the purpose. And there is a greater power than you and I. No matter how you look at things, you can't do it alone.
I have had it with my children answering the phone, trying to duck predators, and they answer the phone and say, "My daddy say he ain't home." I have had it with parking my car in my cousin's garage because I know the best way to get back on your feet is to miss 2 car payments. I'd had it living like that. I'd had it robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'd had it borrowing money from people. I'd had it living like a cringing animal. When you don't have any money, it runs your blood pressure up. You hear me? I had poverty sucks. Make no mistake about it. And you've got to decide, I have had it. I'm not going to live like this anymore. No, there's got to be more for me. And let me tell you something. You deserve it. Here, you deserve a better life. There is more to your life than you've been living. You deserve it. Ladies and gentlemen, I never wanted to be rich.
He goes, I don't know, figure it out. My team did it all for me. I'm like, okay. So I Google how to start a podcast. This is how I began what you're listening to right now. #1 in the world right now. Fastest growing show on earth. I Google how to start a podcast. And Tim Ferriss, who had a successful podcast, had done a podcast on how to start a podcast. And so I listened to his podcast. And at the end of it, there was notes. And he said, if you click on this link, it takes you to Amazon. There's a kit there with the microphones and the recording device and all the stuff you do to start a podcast. I thought, okay. So this started by me Googling how to start a podcast. Tim Ferriss had a kit. I listened to the show. I bought the kit. I got back and I said, Tony, I said, so now what do I do? He goes, I don't know, set the mics up and just start talking about something. And I'm like, all right. So I do like a 30-minute audio. I set the mics up. I got all the equipment Tim Ferriss said you should have. And I'm done. And I call him back and I said, hey, brother, I did the podcast.
Never. All I've ever said, I just want to be comfortable. How many of you ever, raise your hand if you just want to be comfortable. All I've said, I just want to be comfortable. Here's what I discovered. If you want to be comfortable, you got to be rich. Now, here's why I did not want to be rich. #1, I didn't subconsciously believe I could create wealth. That's #1. Didn't go around saying that, but I didn't believe I can do it. See, what you have in your life is directly a result of what you believe is possible for you. Second thing is, I didn't believe I deserved it. Not consciously, but unconsciously. Whatever you have in your life right now, ladies and gentlemen, is a direct result of what you believe that you deserve. As soon as you get to the point of, I have had it, what you say, I deserve better than this. I have a friend who's been married to a guy for years, used to beat her all the time.